Right, let's do this. Episode 20 of the Jules and Coffee Hour begins in 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to the Jules and Coffee Hour, sharing the stories of Blizzard gamers around the world. Pull up a chair. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to episode 20 of the Jules and Coffee Hour. 20 episodes.
Woo!
I'm Jules.
And I'm Coffee, and the Force is with me today.
It's so with you, my goodness. I have a feeling it's just like kind of oozing off of me.
It is. It's just kind of dripping out of my pores right now. It feels good. Feels really good.
Feels good, man. You guys didn't know Coffee is fresh off the plane from the Star Wars Celebration this past weekend, which I hope we will have time to give a little summary of at the end of the show.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, we'll try and keep the conversation to less than an hour. We're on a hard out time tonight because we have another thing scheduled on the HeroesHearth channel at the top of the next hour, which is pretty important. So yeah. So anyway, we're gonna get right into this episode. Well, first, let's talk about this. The goal of this show, I haven't talked about this for a while, I should say it. The goal of this show is about you, our HeroesHearth community, our gamer community, our Blizzard community of gamers. And we're here to tell the stories and talk about the things that are going on together as two of us being Blizzard gamers, and to tell you guys about our lives and also to share in your experiences as well. So that is what this show is about. If you're new to the show, after 20 episodes, you can go back and you can listen to some of the great stuff that we have talked about in the past. Every week it's a different topic, and today is no different. In this episode, we're talking about an interesting topic, which seems very simple, of asking for help. And I have done this topic on a podcast before. I disclaimer, it's been years, but I've done it. And the reason why I've done it before is because it is a hot button issue for me. It's a challenging issue for me, is asking for help. So yeah, let's get into it. Can we just topic of the week sounder it and just do the thing?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
It's time for the topic of the week.
It is the topic of the week. So asking for help. Coffee. Do you, like me, find it hard to ask people for help?
I do. I don't know what it is. Ever since I was young, I felt bad about asking people for help. And I don't just mean that in the emotional capacity. I mean physically, financially. I hated asking people for help because then I felt like I owed them something in return. And I don't like that feeling. You know, I want to be generous and give people things, but I don't want to do it because I feel like I owe them something. So I think that's the core of why I don't like asking for help. But, you know, other people have different reasons.
Where do you think that belief system came from?
Probably something I learned when I was young. I think my dad was probably the person that told me just to you never want to owe people anything. And especially, I mean, we've talked about my parents before, and they had a lot of debt. So I think the idea of owing something, or whatever it may be, was not good, you know, not in my head growing up. So
yes, and I think we had a bit of a similar upbringing in that way. And my parents didn't have a lot of money when we were younger, and so my dad worked 2 jobs. My mom stayed home and watched my sister and I, and then eventually became a stay-at-home babysitter for other people's children, as well as when my sister and I were in school. And I remember conversations, and I don't know if this is a New Jersey thing particularly or not. I just don't know of it for sure. But my family was always there was a very strong feeling that you needed to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, be resourceful, and don't take advantage of other people's kindness, and don't think that you're going to get a free handout, because you won't. And yeah, it
Yeah.
was like, I like, that is, to this day, that mindset is ingrained in me, to the point where at 44 years old, when I got into a really difficult situation, actually for the past 3 years, when I've been struggling financially and my parents have stepped in to help, I could never ask them for that help.
Right.
I would never ask them for that help. But what it turned out to be was that they knew I was struggling, and they
Just
did
helped
it on their
anyway.
own. Yeah, they did it on their own free will, which honestly was like a combination of devastation for me and a feeling of failure, and not a feel. I don't want to use the word accomplishment, but like,
Hmm.
how do I say this? Like, it was like I felt proud that I earned the opportunity to be someone worthy of helping without having to ask. I guess that's the question. That's the way I want
Oh,
to put it.
interesting.
Yeah, like, okay, so because like my parents' approval was and is very important to me, and I never wanted to be that child that was like, "Oh, mom and dad will just bail me out.
I'm
They'll
listening, but I'm
just."
locking Betrelli up.
Yeah, he's getting. We should have done the pre-lock. We thought about it. It was there. It was almost there. um it was tough for me to like resolve, like, because I was always raised that way. It was like, you'll figure it out, you'll get back up on your feet, you'll recover, you'll come up with a solution or solutions to make this happen. And that is, it's a struggle that I have to this day, because it actually has negatively affected my mental health in the
Hmm.
past.
But that's a positive spin on it too, to be saying that you're someone of worth that deserves the offering of help. You know?
Yeah, and honestly, it's just like, so it goes back to me being younger and hearing my parents talk to their friends on the, over coffee cake, the coffee cake thing that they do as parents when they have people over
And you pull
for
out the coffee cake that you got at the
coffee
grocery
cake.
store.
Yep, and like the Entenmann's coffee cake
Yeah.
or whatever. And like the kids would be out playing in the other room, but as when I started to get older, I would overhear what they were saying, and then they would talk about so and so's kid and this so and so's kid, and how they're just a
Hmm.
freeloader, and they don't want for anything because their parents have spoiled them. And and that message was carried over to me, was just
Mm-hmm.
like, we are raising you to be self-sufficient and capable and smart. And like when I graduated college, I moved out of the house. I was 21 and I moved out of the house, and I was done with
Yep.
college. I left.
Yeah.
So, but the negative impact of that is that that in the times where I do really need help, I don't know how to ask, or I will go out of my way not to, which could be detrimental.
I like that you brought up your parents like chatting about you know, other parents, children and stuff like that, because I definitely remember that too.
Yeah.
But I also have a strong opinion about how our generation is a lot more difficult and complicated than our parents' generation. And there's just so many reasons that becoming independent is harder than it used to be. The
Absolutely.
amount of bills, the cost of rent, just the cost of like a vehicle, insurance, um, things like that. When our parents were growing up, were just not, like cell phone bills. Like there's so many things, cable TV, internet, all of these things that people didn't have to worry about, um, 20 years or so ago. And now it's like, if you don't have any of those things, you can't really function as an
Yeah.
independent adult. So it's,
Yeah.
I think that more so than ever, people should not be scared or afraid or intimidated about asking for help, because it's a generational thing. And I think that the older generation is trying to, pass down that ideology or mentality of, asking for help is, a lack of achievement or it's failure. And I don't think that it is.
Yeah, it's just this, it's a very difficult time frame to kind of compare now to what maybe like our parents grew up with, because like they had a whole separate set of ideals. They didn't have things like GoFundMe or
It's true.
things like that. At the other side of it, most people who were employed at the time, like were my parents, like you'd get this job and you'd stay at that job for like
Forever.
20 years,
Yeah.
right?
And you could
Most
retire.
of the you could
Right.
retire with a pension
Right.
that your company paid for. My father has a pension from, he is a retired police chief and has a pension related to his time as a police officer. And like that's stuff that is no longer even a possibility. You're
Right.
going to have to be responsible for investing your own money. And the sad part about it is that I literally had this conversation with my boss as we were walking out the door, and it's very funny. He asked me what I was up to tonight, and I said I have a podcast to record tonight, and he was like, "Oh, what's the topic?" And I said, "We're talking about asking for help." And he said, "Well, what?" He didn't really know what the show was about or how we did the show, and I said, "Well, we've done a bunch of different episodes, and one of them, like, we've done one recently about financial stability and handling your finances." And I told him, I'm like, he's like, yeah, we've pretty much failed our entire generation of people in terms of teaching them how to be financially responsible. And I
Yep.
said, yeah. And he is the father of 3 young boys. And I said, I've talked to he and his wife both own the company. And I said, I've talked to your wife about this too. Like, that is the thing I would tell you as you're raising your boys. Make sure that they understand how to handle money, because nobody's going to teach them in school. No one's going
Mm-hmm.
to teach them how to handle their finances. And it's just going to get even harder for them to be able to make a living and just be able to pay. Their parents own their own business. So they're not going to get health insurance. Like, they're
Mm-hmm.
not getting on their parents' insurance. They're
Right.
getting onto whatever their parents are buying, which is, in the world that we live in now, I am literally just kind of
It's got to be
astounded.
expensive.
Right. I'm astounded right now about how many of us are not in the traditional like job with the big company that gives you great benefits and paid time off and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. So getting back around to the asking for help part, it's like, how do we even give people the opportunity to have a strong foundation and feel like they could be financially comfortable to go out on their own? And that's why there's so many of this younger generation that are living with roommates if they go outside the home.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that seems like, I did the roommate thing in college and then I was like, F that, I'm done,
Same here. I
right?
mean, but without a roommate, how do you get your own place these days? It's
Especially you living in LA.
oh yeah. There's 4 or
Yeah,
5 or 6 people in one studio sometimes in LA. It's
right?
ridiculous.
It's just like and so the thing about asking for help, when you talk about just like the financial side of it, and then I think about the mental health side of it,
Yeah.
and how much that's changed from when my parents were younger,
Mm-hmm.
and how like mental health, depression, anxiety was kind of, you didn't talk about that stuff.
It was looked
That
down
was
upon.
not,
It was weakness. It was considered
yeah,
weakness.
and that weakness point sometimes to me is still what I hear in my head. Like,
Mm-hmm.
pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or get over it, or suck it up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, that is, that I'm so glad that is changing,
Yeah.
but I am the worst person to myself when it comes to comes to just like, my brain will yell at me and just say, you know, get over it. Why are you feeling, why are you down like this? This is not getting you anywhere.
Just
like,
dig your heels in, put your head down, and get through it. And
yeah.
Timmy has a good point, that if you do, decide you finally are going to ask for help, and then you succeed, is it really your success because you use the assistance of another to succeed? I mean, I would argue that absolutely, yes, it is. But
yeah,
some people may not see it that way. And so much of what we do is, we're concerned with perception and how other people see things. So,
yeah, I mean, let's just use an example of like, hey, I need my parents' financial help to start a business, right? You're the one that is starting the business. You're using their money as the stepping stone to accomplish your goals. Is it still your success? Yes. Did you get it? You could have gotten a loan from a bank but your parents helped you to get there faster and be more successful, or having to avoid paying interest fees, whatever.
Yeah.
Or that. No. My stupid neighbor and his stupid motorcycle. Good Lord. It's so loud.
I can barely hear it on my end.
Oh, it's so loud. And so the hard part though comes in is when there are people that are literally given, or they don't contribute to that success in full, or in 3/4 of the way. Like if it's basically like someone paid your way to get there. I will tell you, like, here's a great example. When I was going through my divorce, there was a fan of the show of Torn Think Tank that I was doing at the time, who had heard that I was going through this really difficult time. And I had mentioned that I was living in Madison, Wisconsin at the time, and it was a pretty bad situation that I was in, and I was invited to come up here to Minneapolis to stay with a friend of mine for Christmas, because it was Christmas time. And I was going to drive. It's about 4 hours away.
Jeez.
But I was going to drive up and stay with them for a good portion of a week. And this fan messaged me and said, I would very much like to buy you a plane ticket to just get you there, and so that you don't have to worry about your travel. Aww. And I was like, my initial, like, oh my God, it was just like, I can't take this. I cannot take this from you. That's too much. And his response was, look, I travel for my business all the time. I have so many freaking firearms I don't know what to do with them. I would very much like to do this for you, to help you, because you've done so much for me. Then I was okay to at least accept the generosity, because it was mainly him justifying to me that I can give you something that would help you because you have done something for me in return, which is exactly what you had spoken of.
Right, you owe them
in the beginning
something
that he felt like he owed me for, or wanted to give back to me, and not necessarily it was like a tit for tat thing. It was more, I want to do something because you've done so much for me. Then I'm more than happy to at least open my mind to consider it.
Right. I just never want people to feel that way. I want them to do nice things because they want to do nice things. I don't want them to feel like they have to. You know what I mean? That's why I shy away from that sometimes. I don't. Yeah, asking for help really is a complicated thing to do sometimes. It really is.
Well, and especially if you have trust issues. Like, hi, I'm Jules Scott. I have trust issues.
That's
me. A lot of them.
I've got a lot of trust issues. That's why I don't really have many friends.
And the trust issues are for, they're for good reasons. It's because I have been, painfully burned in the past. But at the same time, it's like I never want someone to feel like they are that I've expected something out of them if I've asked for their help. Or like, so it'd be that example of like, hey, having someone help you move. like having, you know, like you can't, like I freak out over the fact, like if I ever wanted to get a new desk or something like that, I have a very steep set of stairs that come into my condo because I'm on the second floor. And so like there's an outside door, but you have to go straight up these stairs. I literally am incapable of carrying a heavy item like an IKEA desk on my own. I need someone to help me. So it would be me either paying for a delivery driver or asking someone to help me. And in that respect, I'm like, oh my God, if you help me, I'm like buying your dinner and like a 6-pack of beer and like whatever it is that, because
you gotta give them the pizza, gotta give them the beer.
Pizza,
key.
Yeah, like that's the key when people like move your stuff. But
super important.
But yeah, like my boss gave me a ride to work or ride to the airport when I went to Vegas a couple weeks ago, and she offered, like she was like, hey, I'd be happy to do it. And I'm like, girl, I'm leaving like 7:15 in the morning. She's, that's all right, I'm awake already. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, she's like, no, it's perfectly fine. Sweet. Well, I went out there and bought her a $20 Starbucks gift card to say thank you, because I was like, yeah, well, because we were talking about how she loves her Starbucks, and I was like, well, I'm making sure that you know how much I appreciate this.
That's sweet.
But that's me, and sadly, I see examples of a lot of people who take advantage of others' kindnesses and generosity. And that really bothers me.
It bothers me too. And I mean, to keep it relevant to gaming specifically, I've seen streamers do that.
Have you?
Yeah, I've seen streamers do that before, when there's just someone in their chat who's just devoted to them and just super supportive. And I mean, gifts, I mean, money, bits, everything. And then the streamers don't even take the time to know that person. They don't even know how to pronounce that person's name, you know what I mean? Things like that. Yeah. And that's all part of it to me. Is at least if someone is going to support you heavily, at least take the time to, you know, understand who that person is and you know their life a little bit.
It's like interesting that you say that. I was watching some big streamers the other day. So I was watching, like, Ninja was in the middle of a big the World Cup tournament for Fortnite. I watched him for a while. I've watched Shroud recently for a while, and just kind of having him on. And there's that line with those two who are like the massive streamers, where people are throwing $100 a piece or $1,000 at them, and they don't even blink.
There's no reaction whatsoever.
No, it's just like, or it was like, hey, thanks for the hundo. And I'm sitting there going, you'd have me in tears if I were like, but it's all relative. It's all relative because those guys don't ask for that money. They're literally just getting it.
I get it. And I know that there's a level of not even being able to read chat at that point, right? Because there's so much talking. But I would hope that, some smaller streamers in the grand scheme of things take some time to know their viewers and know who they are and talk with them and do something to repay them for just the amount of support, that they throw their way.
Yeah, and it's a matter of, I guess it's just a matter of differing principles and expectations and priorities. Like, I know that I go out of my way to give people thanks for what they do for me, if they do things for me. And not everybody's like that. And not everybody's like me, where they're afraid to even ask for help. Like, there are a lot of people out there who are, it's like help is just, it's a thing that they expect, and that's their right to receive. Yeah. And that's where I get really, really frustrated, because number one, I really try hard to not judge people. I really do. I try my best. It's inevitable. Like, nobody's perfect. None of us are
sometimes
infallible.
You just subconsciously do it. It's super hard. Yeah. It's super hard, but
Yeah.
I try to do the same.
But I will see people who are on like I've seen people in the go back to the World of Warcraft community because I'm really not a part of that anymore, and it goes back several years. And there were people within that community who took advantage of people's generosity and and treated it like like it was like their entitlement. There was one podcaster who like solicited donations for his wedding. Yeah, like it wasn't things that he needed. It was like he wanted this thing for his wedding, and it was, and it was very expensive. And so he just, he just told people he's accepting donations for this thing. And I was just like, oh no, like, why are people giving you money for this? I don't understand. Like,
yeah.
that I again, trying not to be judgy, but I at the same time, and I had this problem early on where I was like, look, I can't tell anybody what to do with their money or how to spend their money. That's their choice.
Yeah.
But man, that feels shitty. Man, that feels like people are being taken advantage of.
But it's yeah, I see both sides of it. I've been talking with a lot of streamers lately, and they've told me, Coffee, you need to put a goal on your stream of like something you're working towards, like something like a donation goal. And I talking about asking for help, I feel so weird putting up a donation goal, like of what I will use the money towards and things like that. Right. I feel bad about that kind of thing. I don't know, I'm not there yet, but I'm being encouraged by many streamers to do that because that will, encourage them to support in many different ways. And I'm not sure how I can make myself comfortable with it. Maybe you can't.
Yeah. Honestly, maybe you cannot, because whatever it is that's saying to you, I'm not worthy of, of putting that up. And I guess it's more of the impression that it leaves. Okay, in the streaming world, let's use a donation bar on the screen.
Right.
Versus,
that's what I mean.
Right. Or versus like a wish list of things that you put on your Amazon wish list. Mm-hmm. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
And like I think I view them very differently. I view them as like, if it's an Amazon wish list, like, hey, these are things I would wish for. I don't need them. If you want to buy one for me, I would be happy to receive it and thank you profusely. But this is not something that I am requiring of you, nor do I expect of you. You've asked me for this, and therefore I will put it here. Versus the donation goal, which is, I want to buy this with your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how they feel to me. And maybe I'm seeing the world through different eyes. I don't know, but tell me what you think.
I don't know if they're like a ton different in my eyes, but maybe that's just me. I mean, cuz like what happens with a donation bar is, the person doesn't reach that donation amount at the end of the month. Let's say they still received $1,000, but they didn't reach their $2,000 mark. What are they going to do with that $1,000? They're not going to they're not going to use it to buy the thing because they didn't make the money.
Right. But they're still going to have the $1,000.
They're still going to have the $1,000. Yeah, I don't know. And sometimes I feel silly. Like, the other thing about an Amazon wish list is you can't get everything on Amazon.
No, you can't.
And Amazon has a lot of different things, and maybe people just don't want things, maybe they want money for like an experience. You know what I mean? So
sure. And so, there's,
but I mean, I've seen people who,
yeah. So the streamer Ammunition is really good with this. And she actually has done this in previous years where she solicits donations to help pay for her mods to go to TwitchCon. And in exchange, what she does she gives back to the people who donate at certain levels, like she'll do like a karaoke stream where they can, if certain levels can request songs that she sings, or that it's kind of a Patreon / Kickstarter model, but only for a short term, like, and it's not even for her. Like, she's raising the money so that her mods can go.
I like
and people
that.
are like, right. And so it's a perception thing. Like, she's not the one asking you for she's asking you for your dollars, but they're not going towards her pocket.
Yeah.
And that perception changes a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Perception is everything. Perception is
I wish
how
it wasn't,
people,
but
it is though. And I'm going to see someone, again, trying not to be a judgy McJudgerson, but it's like I see this thing where I see someone constantly asking for handouts and money, where I perceive them as not being able to really come up with a way to make themselves, I don't know, like, are they making themselves better in this process? Is this but if it's a one-time thing, usually I'm fine. But if it's like, hey, yeah, so my taxes are here and I didn't plan for them.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, I mean, one side of it is just like people should have the right to spend their money on whatever the hell they want to spend their money on.
Truth. Which is, again, that's the voice in my head that I hear of my family saying, why are they spending that money on the and
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
I need to stop that. And, so even though I say I try not to be judgy, I have to fight that urge to be judgy, and to, fight the things that I've learned in my upbringing all the time.
Yeah.
Like, because it's just something that is just, it's tough, when people are like, why are they spending this money on that when they could be spending, it's like, it's not my responsibility to judge about where they spend their money and how. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
You do you, boo-boo.
Yeah, it's and like, so it's so interesting because like we're talking about asking for help, and when we talk about financials, that's when my eyes kind of open up like this, and I'm like, and I have to fight that urge of feeling judgy. But if we're talking about asking for help, for mental health, and emotional help, and we're asking for help in that regard, I feel like I never get judgy because we're talking about feelings, and I think all feelings are valid. So when you're asking for help in that regard, I feel like I never have that emotion. But then we bring in like money, and I have that instant judginess comes over me, and I start to feel uncomfortable. So it's kind of interesting.
And I don't think we're alone in that. I think that many, many, many of us share that same thing.
Yeah.
And, the thing that I get so frustrated with when it comes to the mental health side is that there are a lot of people out there who really could use help. They could, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just my abilities as an empath, or somebody who just, is experienced with the ways of the world and people in general. But I can literally look at a bunch of people that I've followed on social media right now, and I can just chart their downward spiral into things that have happened in their life and say, you really could use a good 15 therapy sessions or more, to try to work out some of those issues. And they don't ask for help. They don't either feel that they're worthy. I don't know. They don't feel that they need it.
It's interesting. They don't ask for help, but they are like putting it out on social media, and like, are they?
Yes.
Is that them crying out for help, or what? Like what? I don't understand.
Yeah.
They're being transparent about or supposedly they're being transparent about their issues, but
yeah, and that the 100% worst offender of that is someone who complains, but never tries to change it. Yeah. And like this, I've heard this in the workplace in many, where they're like, basically, if you just want to bitch and moan about your situation and you don't want to do anything to change it, then that's on you. Where people are like, I hate my job. And it's like, well, then why aren't you going to find another different job?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the definition of insanity, I think, is
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different
Expecting
results.
the same result.
Yeah.
And yes. So, on the flip side of things, I have had to learn that not everybody wants my help. I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah,
over
no,
time.
like, you know, that's a good point, because my wife and I sometimes I just need to vent, you know, and my wife is a super proactive person. So occasionally when I'll go to like vent, she'll start brainstorming about all these different ways to solve my problem. And that's really not what I want her to do. I really just want her to listen. And I realize, that sounds silly, because if you have a problem, you should fix it. And that's the way she is. But sometimes I just want to heard or feel, or like, I want to be heard or feel like she's listening.
I actually have a rule with a couple of my girlfriends on that, because I am Emma in that respect. I am literally like, if you start griping and bitching about things, I'm going to be there listening.
You're thinking solutions.
I'm offering solutions. I'm thinking of brainstorm topics of ways that we can make this better. And I've set myself a rule with my girlfriends to say, do you want my advice, or do you want to just, or do you just
ask
want my
up
ears?
front?
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I think it's a piece of advice I would give for you and Emma, is for her to ask you, do you want me to give you advice, or do you just want me to listen?
That's sort of exactly what we do now. And she asked that like relatively early in whatever I'm talking about. And I consider it for a moment before I answer. I have to like actually think about it, because sometimes I don't know when I start telling a story, like what I actually want. So
yeah, because you just want to release the pressure valve. You're blinded by emotion, necessarily not thinking about it logically, to say, you just want someone, just hear me, hear me now.
Somebody listen to me, please.
Somebody, goddamn it, listen to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is really important in relationships, for sure. Friendships. If you're the person that everybody comes to for bitching, venting, whatever it is, you're most likely the person who is the helper, the listener, the person with good advice. And sometimes people literally just don't want your help.
Right. Yeah, sometimes they really don't. And you offering it upsets them.
It frustrates them.
Yeah.
Because like I can already answer this question for you. When you've gone through those I just need to vent moments and Emma's offering solutions, you're just like, no, I just need you to tell me that I'm right in this.
Yeah, I don't want you to tell me things that I could have done differently. I just want you to say, I'm sorry, baby, or something like that,
I'm sorry, baby, that sucks.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, yes.
End of conversation.
So in my workplace, we have this continuous improvement thing that we're doing, where we have to read chapters of the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. We're literally reading through the entire book, chapter by chapter, and every Monday we have a session of discussion about the chapter that we read. And this latest chapter was about being a good listener. And I used that exact example of sometimes people just want to be heard and they don't want you to fix things. And I use that because like one of my coworkers is the one who deals with all the customer complaints. And he is the guy who tries to fix everything instead of hearing the customer out first and letting them just bitch. And I said, use this with your spouses for real. Like if you are in a situation where they are just coming home from a day at work and they just are just like, they want to tell you about Janice from accounting and how much of a pain in the ass she is.
Janice is such a bitch. God damn it. Classic Janice. Am I right?
Classic Janice, man. I'll tell you what. So
I'll tell you
anyway, I'll tell you what. I just want to bitch about this for a minute. Yeah, it is literally it is such a good technique to have, because not everybody wants your help.
I would even argue that I think the majority of people, when they're talking about a difficult story or something that challenged them or made them unhappy in their life, I think the majority of people actually don't want help. I think they just want you to listen. So
Yeah.
when somebody really comes to you and does ask for help, I think it's super important to listen to them and consider that, because I think the majority of people in my life really, when they come to me and discuss a story or like a challenging moment, they don't actually want help. They just want me to listen. So if they were to come to me and ask for help, I think I would have to really honor their circumstance and think about how I could help them, because I don't think that's not a common occurrence, at least for me, is for someone to ask for help.
It's funny because I had a situation last week that I needed someone else's perspective on it, and I messaged Workhorse and I said, because he was someone who specifically could answer the situation that I was dealing with at the time. And so I was, my words to him were, I need to ask you something. I need to understand something. Just, answer this question for me. And then I explained what it was. And he was like, oh, like it was just like, yeah, that's not okay. Or that's weird. And, and I rarely do that with anybody. So he was like right on it. He, just as you said, he knew exactly, like, Jules needs something, and she's struggling right now, and she needs me. And
it's a good guy.
So at
that
the same,
Workhorse.
he's the bestest. And he, I think part of it too, in terms of asking for help and trying not to ask for help, is that I do I do appreciate the fact that if it is a rare occurrence for me to ask someone for help, like, they're going to drop everything,
Right,
usually, and help me, because they know that it is, like, she ain't crying wolf. She really needs somebody now.
I was just gonna say, you can't be the type of person that cries wolf, or when you actually need help, people won't be available to help you.
Yeah.
It's pretty important.
So I kind of like, I don't know if that's a worthy badge of honor to carry or not, but I do. And I don't know. I mean, so getting down to my own personal stories of things related to asking for help, I realized that I couldn't do certain things on my own a couple years ago, and I know I've talked about this on the show before, but I'd been through some really tough stuff: divorce, moving to a new city, taking on a new job, and I'd moved 3 times in 18 months. It was a pretty stressful time for me. Very difficult divorce, just trying to recover from all that. And then one of my most beloved things in the world, my cat, passed away. And it was like I needed to, I did what I normally did, which was I just forged forward, pushed forward, kept going, keep working. And the methodology of that didn't work anymore because I was falling apart. I was not able to maintain my mental state in a good way. I was not sleeping. I was anxious all the time. I was crying all the time. It was really bad. And I had to accept the fact that I was at the end of my rope, and I needed someone to step in to help me understand it. And I started working with a psychologist and a therapist, and it was incredible how much positive change came from me just saying, I need help. I can't do this alone anymore.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just the thought of, or acknowledging it to yourself that you need help is half the fight in that, for sure.
I had a listener of my show years ago, and I've talked about therapy for years, and the positive things that come from therapy, and that it's not always the easiest thing to do, and not, like, people just don't go naturally into therapy and magically get better, but you have to want it and you have to try. And she messaged me and she said, I really think I need to start going to therapy, and because of you, I'm thinking about it. And can I talk to you about it? And I said, yes. And we talked about it. And then she said, well, and then she sent me a message a couple of weeks later, and she said, well, I found a number of a therapist, but I haven't called them yet. And I said, that's great. I'm glad that you found the number. When you're, I hope that you'll feel ready sometime soon to call them. And then she said, well, and then she messaged me and she said, I picked up the phone to call them and I had to put it back down, but I tried to do it. And I said, that's wonderful. When you're ready to punch in those numbers, then hopefully that will be the time. It was that slow of a process for her to finally, she called a couple times and then hung up before someone answered the phone. It was that difficult. But the day that she made the appointment and went in, she messaged me and she said, I would not have done this if it was not for you.
Aww. That's so sweet.
And my point of that is that sometimes people need help and don't know how to get it. And you just never, ever, ever know the impact that you could have on someone in a positive way to encourage them to take that step forward, to make that change, to send that letter. Man, it's a powerful thing. When we sit behind these microphones, I am aware every moment of how my words can affect other people.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it's not just two podcasters or two streamers or people who are, leaders in a community. Just saying hello to someone in a grocery store or wishing someone a nice day behind the counter. I'm going back to what King Numgod said in the chat. And he said, where I work, I was missing my money, which is only $5 for a small lunch thing. I must have misplaced it. But one of my coworkers covered me and told me, no money. I got you covered. And keep in mind, I wasn't going to ask for help since a year of working in that job, I knew most of the people, but I didn't ask for help. One of my coworkers covered me and used the $5 of their own money for me, and I was so shocked, but I gladly accepted it since I was hungry, and I misplaced my money.
That's so sweet. And I mean, I'll second that, and I urge that. Hopefully we empower you guys and encourage you guys to, if you can have just a small positive impact in someone's day each day, and it's a reasonable request or something that helps them, do it, because every one of us is going through our own battle each day. Some are big, some are small. Everyone has their own story, and that's part of the reason why I don't judge people or can't judge people, because we don't know what people are going through, not truly anyway. So if you have the power to improve that person's life in even the smallest way, whether it be just smiling at them, greeting them in the morning, holding in the elevator, or buying them their lunch or something like that, do it, because you have no way of knowing how much that would improve their situation, or how good that little bit of positivity can help out whatever it is they're going through.
Yeah. And let me just tell you this one thing. It's totally random, but I see it all the time on Reddit, because I read a lot of Reddit. I never post, but I read. If you are a woman and you have a comfortable relationship with a man of some, it could be a coworker, it could be someone that you are attracted to, give men compliments, please. Please compliment them, because I am stunned and shocked at about how many men say that nobody compliments them. Nobody makes them feel good about themselves. And that is the most shitty thing in the world. Like when men say how there's this one thing that one person said to them 15 years ago that they carry around as a moment in their life where someone actually said something nice to them.
Aww.
Like, what? Please compliment men, please, because if they deserve it, of course. If they're an asshole, don't. But if they deserve it,
within circumstance, right?
Right. I mean, I compliment Coffee all the time, and it's not about like, oh, you look so hot today. It's like, that was a great thing you just did. That was what you said was really smart. That's a great suggestion. And look at them. They're all telling you how great you look. Tell him how smart he is. Tell him how funny he is.
Jules, I think your hair looks beautiful today.
Thank you. Thank you. But see, women, we get compliments all the time from men. It's just a thing that happens in our society. And I'm going to be a little bit sexist in that reverse sense and say we're not doing that for men and we need to.
I try to compliment men as often as I can, actually. If I see...
Good.
Yeah, I think it makes them uncomfortable sometimes, but I really do mean well by it. You know, I'm not, you know, it's nothing sexual when I compliment someone's shirt or, you know, the way their outfit or even their eyes or something, the way they groomed themselves that day. It's just, I respect it. I appreciate them.
Yeah, like I like your shirt, man. That's awesome. It looks really good on you or something, you know? And there's, I just, yeah, like that's very off topic, but I just wanted to throw it in there. Okay.
It isn't because I'm sure there's a man out there who has some self-esteem issues who might be on the verge of considering asking for help because he doesn't feel confident in the way he looks. And imagine if someone went up to that guy on any given day and just told him they thought he had a nice smile or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, that might change his perception
or that he's funny or that he's that he's witty or that he has a nice I love the bag that you carry to school or whatever it is, like, you know, just something
or just
nice.
they think he's smart, you know, or something like that. You know, anything like that.
Men don't get enough compliments. It's just how it is. If you read Reddit long enough, you'll see this over and over and over again, and I feel like I'm gonna make it so that we can change that just a little bit.
We'll further it. We'll say that men don't get enough compliments, and women often get the wrong compliments.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that is so true, and we could do a whole show about that. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, we could. We really could.
All right, we have about 10-ish minutes remaining. So tell me a story about, let's do this. Tell me this story here.
Hey, Coffee, tell me a story.
Tell me a story about Star Wars Celebration.
This might be a long story. Has anyone seen the clip of this gentleman in glasses watching the Star Wars trailer? It's going around Twitter.
The one that was retweeted disparagingly saying that this is a bunch of undateable men from an obsession culture.
Yeah. That bothers me so much. That bugs me so much, having just come from Star Wars Celebration. That was probably the best part of Celebration, was watching that trailer in front of, you know, all these people around me. I was surrounded, you know, probably thousands of people around me. I wasn't even in the room. I was in I was in the second overflow room watching this trailer, and within 5 seconds of watching it, I was getting emotional, you know, and I'm the type of person that doesn't hide when I'm getting emotional, you know, so I'm just watching it. My eyes are getting watery, and I'm feeling all of these feelings in front of everyone else, and I'm not caring about it. And about 20 seconds in, you know, I'm actually starting to shed some real tears watching this trailer for a movie. And I felt a little self-conscious. So I started looking around, and everyone around me was having the same exact reaction. So that's a beautiful thing. When you have a moment like that, when you're surrounded by a ton of people who are passionate and excited about something at that level, there's like energy coursing through all of you just because you're in the same room, and it's beautiful. And then I come home and I see that tweet and I watch that video, and I'm saying, this guy is me. This guy is me and everyone in that room. And then people are like trashing this guy, And I thought back, who was in that room with me? And I think about that room, and there were a lot of really attractive people in that room. Handsome men, beautiful women, all having the same emotional reaction about the Star Wars trailer. And it just made me think about how close-minded people are and how just ignorant people can be sometimes.
We all understand this very, very well as Blizzard gamers, too. If we've been to BlizzCon or if we haven't, we've watched it on the virtual ticket. We've had a reveal of something that we've been so passionate about. I remember sitting there and watching the Battle for Azeroth trailer with friends, or the reveal of Overwatch trailer, and people are just cheering and crying and like gasping and like just in awe of everything. We are in this world of people that are actually willing to show emotion in something that they really, really care about.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but anybody who that, just like you said, that tweet like pissed you off. It pissed me off so bad because I was just like, this is why people are just unwilling to treat each other with kindness.
Yeah.
They're unwilling. And that is it's just very, very difficult. It really is. Yeah. So I'm really glad to see the reaction to people going, this is not okay.
Right.
Screw you. Like,
apparently that gentleman took the video down after getting flamed so hard. But then my understanding is he put the video back up.
Good.
So which I'm glad, because I think enough people reached out to him and showed support that he felt enough confidence to put the video back up. And that's good, because you should celebrate your passions and you should not be afraid to show emotion and attachment towards your passion. So yeah, that's my little show and tell.
I love it. And I'm really, really glad that you got to do that in person. Like, holy crap, to be able to be in that scenario together with everybody who is so passionate about Star Wars.
I know.
That is BlizzCon. That is everything else in the world that we're
all these
super excited
conventions,
about.
really.
It is. I'm really, really glad that you got a chance to do this. Was your first Star Wars celebration, right?
This is my first Star Wars celebration. It was, I was scared because Chicago was freezing. It snowed while I was there, and I don't do good in the snow. Yeah, I was terrified. But yeah, I knew right at that moment when I looked around and saw all these people tearing up and feeling that the same emotion that I was, I knew that this was 100% worth it, and that I would never forget that moment. Ever. Yeah. So it was an incredible time. It's truly amazing.
What a crazy, awesome experience that was for you. I'm so happy that you got the chance to go. And so I don't really have I didn't really prepare a story for this week. Mainly just because I figured we would be talking about Star Wars Celebration the entire time.
We could talk more about it next time too. We could talk more.
Yeah, exactly. So we're actually going to be wrapping up the show very shortly, because there's a big event coming onto the Heroes Hearth channel after us. Which is very, very cool. And we're gonna wrap up this podcast version with a huge raid. Holy moly. That's a massive raid.
That's a good amount of peeps.
That's a good amount of peeps. So let me just close this out by saying you can send your thoughts and feedback about this discussion to podcast@heroeshearth.com. We tackle a new topic every week, and you're welcomed and encouraged to send us your own as well. We take anything related to Blizzard gaming, anything related to the things that we do in terms of being gamers and in the lives that we lead as gamers. I don't know what our next topic is next week. I have a couple. We'll hold on to that for next week, and you guys can contribute to that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I think we're going to start wrapping it up and get grubby. Grubby is up next.
Is up next.
It's insane. Huge raid to our channel, which is amazing. We're so happy to have Grubby as part of the Heroes Hearth family for Fight Night. Fight Night, which is coming up this Friday.
And we get a little preview of the Fight Night action. Well, we get some insight on or some catch up on some Warcraft 3 strats and gameplay tonight in anticipation for Friday. And it's a good time to be a Warcraft fan, that's for sure.
It is. If you guys are not, if you're watching live, you're going to get a chance to see all the things about Warcraft that you didn't know and want to know. Like, I'm going to be watching because I totally need to know.
Me too.
But watch the VOD if you didn't see it because it's going to be amazing. All right. Let me play the sounder. We're going to get out of here.
All right.
And Grubby, let us know if you're ready to go for the next one. We'll be ready just a short, probably 2 minutes. So hold on just a moment while I get our outro here. That's your line.
Want to contact the show? You can email us at podcast@heroeshearth.com. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, you can find me at coffeeclub_TV, and you can find Jules at JulesRPG. You can also use those same handles to follow our personal streams on Twitch to be notified when we go live.
You can join us for the live broadcast at twitch.tv/HeroesHearth. And it's on Tuesdays now. I need to change my notes. At 6:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Or find us in podcast form on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and TuneIn.
If you like the show and would like to support the great entertainment brought to you by Heroes Hearth, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/HeroesHearth.
Thank you all for joining us today. And until next time, we're glad you're here.